Welcome back, nerds. So now we're going to go ahead and get started on the board. So let's switch over. We're going to create from schematic. Now this is an extremely large board, so let's cut it down to size. But first I'm going to change to millimeters, millimeter, 1, millimeter, 0.1. And then the size of our board is going to sound kind of random. However, we're going to make this board as small as possible. And the most difficult thing about this entire project is actually getting the pins for the Arduino Uno shield headers to line up correctly. Because if we don't, then our ATtiny program is not going to fit on an Arduino Uno. And it's supposed to be an Arduino Uno shield. So let's go ahead and set the dimensions. So the length is going to be 51.2 and the height is going to be 27.3. So that's a lot smaller. Now I'm going to kind of lightly place some of the components onto the board, but this is not going to be their final resting position. It's just kind of reduce some of the clutter and get an idea for how things are going to be laid out. So our upper digital is going to go in the top right corner. Hopefully it's starting to look more like what the Arduino Uno is supposed to look like and how it's supposed to be a shield. We want to keep the capacitor near the reset and our LED just near the 5 volts. So this is what our general layout is going to look like. Now let's go ahead and align them appropriately. But first we can see this is kind of running our DRC. So let's go ahead and set our DRC. Load, Arcatek, 2-layer board. Cool. So we still are in the way, but we're a lot closer now. For these exact dimensions, we're going to get very particular and it's going to sound kind of wonky. So this is going to be 1.47 and 2.72. And he kind of puts them right in the corner almost perfectly. The power rail is going to be 1.47 also to line up here, and then 15.42. And then our lower digital is going to be 49.73 and 5.26. And then our upper digital is going to be also 49.73 and then 19.484. So I just want to point out something weird. This little extra 4 in the thousands place is why the Arduino Uno is a pain in the butt and Arduino is a pain in the butt. As much as I love them, they purposely make the second header off just a little bit in terms of being exactly 0.1 square inch. So this is 0.1 square inch, this is 0.1 square inch. This should be 0.1 square inch and then 0.1 square inch here. However, Arduino made it offset just a little bit so that a lot of people have to conform to their standard. So kind of lame, one of the one things I don't like about Arduino, but everything else is great and I love them. Alright, so we have our header pins perfectly aligned. We can go ahead and dimension our board so we can see what our alignments are to make sure that they're correct. So we want to go on the measures layer. We don't have to change these, but I like to make it nice and even. And then I want to put it in millimeters, so it's already set. 51.2 like I said and 27.3. We can also get the dimensions here, 12.7, 14.22. So these are the alignments here, and if we change them to inches you would see how this is perfect division. See 0.5, but this one's going to be off by just a little bit right there, 0.56. So that's the part that's kind of wonky. You can leave it like that or change it back. Alright, continuing mission, let's go ahead and line up our capacitor and our LEDs. They should be pretty straightforward. I'm not going to put it all the way to the edge yet because we're going to put some labels for us to see later. Alright, let's go ahead and add those labels now. So one of the labels we want to add is a 1, a little too big, so let's do 0.75, 10. Vector, I want to do center left, or maybe still a little too big. Oh, it didn't change, 0.75. However, it's going to be really hard to align this, so I'm going to align it with this. So this is, again, 2.72. Good, so this is perfectly aligned, and then I'll move it over right around there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the grid to inches, and make this 0.1 and this 0.05. And then now if I move this just half a click, it's perfectly aligned. And then I'm just going to copy and move it over, and then name it A0. And then I'm going to copy this and move it up. And notice again here, and I'm really stressing this, how now it's perfectly aligned because the divisions are exactly 0.1, 0.1, or 0.2 total. Call it VN. Ground, ground again, 5 volt, 3.3 volt, and then reset. Again, if you want the bar, you can do the little exclamation point. Now let's do the other side. So I'm going to copy this, go to info, change it to center right. So we know the height here is perfectly matched, so that's good. I'm going to change to millimeter real quick, grid, millimeter 1, 0.1 millimeter on alt, and line it up like this like we did before. And I'm going to change back to inches as we did before, 0.1, 0.05, and then again I'm going to do the same thing, D4, D5, D6, D7. Now some of these pins are actually PWM pins, so I want to label that appropriately. And actually I don't want to name them D4 here. I'm just going to call them regular 4, squiggle 5 to represent PWM, squiggle 6, normal 7, and then we had perfect divisions on the left side of the board, but here you're going to notice that it's off a little bit. And again, that's where the Arduino Uno kind of gets you. Change back to millimeters. Alright, so this is 19.484. Good. I want to change back to inches. And then now I can move it freely, and it's half a division, so it lines up perfectly here. This is 8, not PWM. This is 9, and it is a PWM pin. 10, PWM pin. 11, PWM pin. 12, not PWM pin. And finally 13. Cool. So now we have the labels. Now you can know when you actually place this ATtiny programmer shield onto your Arduino Uno which pins it's going to actually line up with. Next thing we're going to do is align these guys. So the spacing here is not very crucial. I'm going to go back to millimeters. So again, alignment here is not terribly crucial. I just want to make sure that the board's completely on there. And just to make this easier, I'm going to take half this dimension. I'm going to open up my terminal because I'm lazy. Python divided by 2, 13.65. I'll just make it 13.6. So this is 13.6. And then I'm going to line up the bottoms of all of these together. So I'll just do something like that and then move it over. Looks fine. Line up the bottom here, move it over. Alright, that looks fine. You can play around with the spacing if you want to make it nice and even and pretty, but this looks good enough for me. So this is going to be the layout of our ATtiny programmer. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to route the board.